In a quiet Georgia suburb, Karen Peters turned a peaceful neighborhood into her personal fiefdom, wielding HOA authority like a club to bully residents. From her throne at Miller's Market, 3 miles away, she issued fines for trivial infractions. $500 for a bird feeder, $6,300 for a widow's greenhouse, enforcing her vision of perfection through fear. Her reign escalated when she sent fake cops, decked out in cheap tactical gear with no badges, to General Ronald Blake's doorstep at 6:42 a.m., demanding he vacate his home over a vague HOA violation. No warrant, just her orders. For Americans aged 18 to 50, this hits a nerve. Whether you're a millennial renting in a gated community or a Gen Xer dodging HOA fees, you felt the sting of petty tyrants who twist rules to dominate. Karen's clipboard was her scepter, her smartphone a Rolodex of intimidation, targeting those who dared defy her, like Blake, whose flagpole she likely deemed too bold. Her fake officers with their eBay radios and gum-chewing swagger weren't just a prank. They were a power play, meant to scare a man who'd faced warlords in Iraq. Yet her abuse of power backfired. Blake's steely gaze from his porch, 10 feet from the imposters, sent them packing, exposing her scheme. For viewers scrolling X or catching local news, it's a reminder of suburban battles fought in cul-de-sacs from Texas to Ohio, where HOAs can morph into mini dictatorships. Karen's downfall, sparked by her own arrogance, proves that intimidation only works until someone like Blake, forged in real battles, says enough. Her empire of fear crumbled, leaving a lesson. Power without justice is just noise, and truth always outlasts a bully's bluff. The quiet of a Georgia dawn shattered at 6:42 a.m. when two men in knockoff uniforms pounded on General Ronald Blake's door, 10 feet from his coffee pot, demanding he leave his home under a baseless HOA order. Karen Peters, the neighborhood's self-styled queen, thought her fake cops could bully anyone, even a man who'd parked his SUV 5 miles from war zones. But Blake, a retired U.S. Army general with 32 years in special forces, wasn't fazed. His eyes, trained in the deserts of Iraq and briefing rooms with presidents, clocked their scam instantly. No badges, no name tags, radios as cheap as dollar store toys, one guy chewing gum like he was auditioning for a bad cop show. For Americans aged 18 to 50, millennials grinding through corporate life, or Gen Xers coaching Little League, this is the kind of moment that sparks envy. Blake's military instinct, honed pulling civilians from rubble and staring down warlords, kicked in like muscle memory. Standing 6 feet tall in sweatpants and a faded West Point tee, he didn't yell or threaten. He spoke, voice low and lethal. "You're not real police." That calm, forged in chaos, sent the imposters scrambling to their unmarked SUV. It's the fantasy of every suburbanite who's gotten a $500 fine for a mailbox shade-off code, dreaming of shutting down an HOA tyrant like Karen, whose clipboard ruled the block 3 miles wide with petty vengeance. Blake's fury wasn't rage, it was surgical, a soldier's clarity cutting through suburban nonsense. He didn't grab a gun, he grabbed facts, later digging through HOA letters that reeked of fraud. For viewers on S or flipping through Georgia news, this isn't just a story, it's a rally cry. From Florida condos to Ohio subdivisions, we've all met a Karen, weaponizing rules to flex power. Blake's stand, rooted in decades of defending freedom, turned her game upside down without a shot fired. It's a reminder. Real authority doesn't need props or tantrums. It stands firm, eyes steady, ready to dismantle tyranny, whether it's in Kandahar or a cul-de-sac. Karen picked the wrong porch, and Blake's instincts made sure she'd regret it. In the shadow of Karen Peters' reign over a Georgia suburb, just 3 miles from Miller's Market, a sinister pattern emerged, one that General Ronald Blake uncovered after fake cops banged on his door at 6:42 a.m., demanding he vacate his home 10 feet from his coffee pot. Karen, the HOA's self-anointed dictator, didn't just fine Blake for some vague violation. She orchestrated a machine that preyed on the neighborhood's softest voices. Widows, disabled veterans, single. Parents, people least likely to push back, faced her wrath. $6,300 for a greenhouse 8 feet too tall. $9,100 for a driveway's dangerous hue, $1,250 for a recycling bin left out 3 hours too long. These weren't random. They were calculated, a racket cloaked in HOA letterhead, designed to squeeze those who couldn't afford lawyers or didn't know their rights. For Americans aged 18 to 50, millennials scraping by in apartments or Gen Xers juggling mortgages in subdivisions, this feels like a punch you've taken or dodged. Karen's fake officers, with their dollar store radios and no badges, weren't just a stunt to scare Blake, a retired general who'd pulled families from rubble in Iraq. They were tools in a broader scheme, uncovered when Blake, 6 feet of disciplined fury, dug through her fraudulent citations. He found Sharon, a widow 3 blocks over, forced to dismantle her greenhouse. A single mom whose driveway was jackhammered 5 miles away. A disabled vet threatened with a lien for a trash bin. Each letter bore Karen's signature, dripping with phrases like emergency clause that no real HOA charter contained. This resonates in every cul-de-sac from Texas to Ohio, where HOAs can feel like mini fiefdoms, fining you $200 for a fence post 2 inches off. Blake's military instincts, honed 7,000 miles from home facing real tyrants, spotted the cruelty instantly. He didn't rage. He researched, his dining table a war room of documents exposing Karen's empire. For viewers on X or catching Atlanta news, it's a gut check. The vulnerable are always targets, whether it's a shady landlord or an HOA queen. Karen banked on silence, thinking her clipboard and fake cops could crush spirits without a fight. But Blake, who'd carried caskets draped in stars, saw her for what she was, a coward bullying those too tired to resist. His stand, calm as a Georgia breeze, wasn't just for his porch, it was for every neighbor who'd paid her fines in fear. When her scheme collapsed, landing her 7 years in prison, it wasn't just justice, it was a warning. Prey on the weak, and someone like Blake, forged in battle, will turn your power to dust. The Georgia suburb, just 3 miles from Miller's Market, had cowered under Karen Peters' HOA reign. But when fake cops hit General Ronald Blake's porch at 6:42 a.m., 10 feet from his cooling coffee, a spark ignited. Karen's scheme, fining widows $6,300 for greenhouses 8 feet high, single moms $9,100 for driveways, veterans $1,250 for trash bins, thrived on fear, silencing neighbors who'd once waved from porches. But Blake, a retired general who'd faced death 7,000 miles away, wasn't one to fold. His defiance, calm as a Georgia oak, woke the block. For Americans aged 18 to 50, millennials in condos or Gen Xers mowing lawns, this is the community comeback you cheer for, the kind that hums in Texas tailgates or Ohio barbecues. When Karen sent her badgeless goons back a week later, thinking Blake's 6-foot frame and West Point grit would crack, she miscalculated. Porches lit up like fireflies, 5 houses at first, then 20. Neighbors, once too scared to speak, stepped out, phones recording from 15 feet away. Jerry, a dad 3 doors down, held an American flag. Sharon, the widow, clutched a sign, "We stand with Ron." A teenager blocked the fake cop's gray SUV, parked 30 feet off, with a skateboard in a glare. This wasn't chaos. It was solidarity, the kind that powers PTAs or church potlucks across the U.S. Blake, in crisp army dress blues, silver eagle glinting, declared, "You're under arrest," voice steady as a sniper's aim. The imposters froze, one bolting only to hit a wall of neighbors 10 feet out, zip ties snapping like justice itself. Karen's screams, 50 feet down the street, all flailing sandals and fading mascara, drowned in the silence of a united block. For viewers on X or Georgia News, it's a fist pump moment. Communities win when fear loses. From Florida HOAs to Oregon suburbs, we've all wished for that neighbor who rallies the block. Blake didn't just expose Karen's racket. He reminded everyone, widows, vets, moms, that together, they're unstoppable. When her empire fell, costing her a 7-year sentence, it wasn't Blake alone. It was a neighborhood, 3 miles wide, saying, "No more." Solidarity isn't loud, it's porches. Glowing, hands raised, and truth holding firm. In a Georgia suburb, 3 miles from Miller's Market, Karen Peters' HOA tyranny, built on 6,300 fines for greenhouses 8 feet high and fake cops sent to General Ronald Blake's door 10 feet from his coffee, met its match in a soldier's resolve. When badgeless imposters demanded Blake vacate his home at 6:42 a.m., his 32 years of Army grit didn't flinch. Karen's racket, bleeding widows, veterans, and single moms with 9,100 driveway fees or 1,250 trash bin penalties, thrived on intimidation, but Blake, who'd briefed presidents 7,000 miles away, fought with facts, not fists. For Americans aged 18 to 50, millennials dodging rent hikes or Gen Xers battling HOA notices, this is the justice you root for, the kind that lights up X feeds from Texas to Ohio. Blake's dining table, 5 feet wide, became a command center, stacked with fraudulent HOA letters citing emergency clauses no charter held. He traced signatures to Karen, unmasking her gray line security goons, a shady outfit 50 miles from any legit license. Each document, cross-referenced 3 blocks apart, Sharon's greenhouse, a mom's jackhammer driveway, was a nail in Karen's coffin. This wasn't rage, it was precision, like lining up a shot from 300 yards. Blake's emails to a federal prosecutor, sent at 2:17 a.m., carried the weight of a man who'd carried caskets, demanding oversight. When neighbors rallied, their phones 15 feet out recording the second fake cop visit, Blake's evidence, stacked 12 inches high, sealed the deal. Karen's arrest 7 days later, under Homeland Security's glare, wasn't loud. It was final. 7 years for forgery, incitement, unlawful detention. The HOA dissolved, its $70,000 in corrupt fines refunded, freeing porches from fear. For viewers catching Georgia news, it's a win that feels earned, like a hard-fought game in a suburban cul-de-sac. From Florida condos to Oregon HOAs, Blake's methodical takedown shows justice isn't a shout. It's a paper trail, relentless as a soldier's march. Karen learned too late. Bully a general and he'll bury you in truth, not noise. Her cell, 6 feet by 8, holds no clipboards, just the echo of a neighborhood reclaimed by evidence and a man who never blinked. 3 miles from Miller's Market, where Karen Peters' HOA empire fined widows $6,300 for 8-foot greenhouses and sent fake cops to General Ronald Blake's porch 10 feet from his coffee, a retired soldier's fight became a beacon for freedom. When badgeless imposters hit Blake's door at 6:42 a.m. demanding he leave, his 32-year Army career, forged 7,000 miles away in war zones, ignited. Karen's racket, bleeding single moms $9,100 for driveways, and veterans $1,250 for trash bins, banked on fear, but Blake, who'd carried caskets under stars, saw tyranny in her clipboard. For Americans aged 18 to 50, millennials grilling in backyards, or Gen Xers waving flags at 4th of July parades, this is the patriotism that pulses in suburban veins. Blake's stand, 6 feet tall in a West Point tee, wasn't just for his lawn. It was for every porch from Georgia to Maine. His evidence, stacked 12 inches high, toppled Karen's lies, landing her a 7-year sentence for forgery and unlawful detention. But his viral words on local news, 5 miles from the courthouse, "I didn't serve so people fear fake cops on their lawns," lit a fire. Veterans on X, from Arizona's deserts to Pennsylvania's hills, shared stories. $200 fines for military flags, ramps for disabled kids banned. Blake's inbox flooded, 3,000 emails in 7 days, from Marines in wheelchairs to moms scared of eviction. For viewers catching clips in Texas dive bars or Ohio diners, it's a reminder. Freedom isn't just fought overseas. Blake, waking neighbors whose porches glowed 15 feet apart, showed that tyranny, even in yoga pants, crumbles when met with resolve. Karen's cell, 6 feet by 8, holds no power, while Blake's flag, 5 feet high, flies untorn. From Florida HOAs to Oregon cul-de-sacs, his fight echoes in every American who's faced a petty bully and wished for a hero. He didn't want fame. His handwritten replies, mailed 10 at a time, prove it. Yet his stand, quiet as a Georgia dusk, became a symbol. Home is worth defending, whether against warlords or a neighbor's fake. Badge. Blake's victory, sealed without a shout, tells us all. Freedom starts where fear ends, right on your front step. General Ronald Blake's stand teaches us that power, unchecked, can twist even a neighborhood into a battleground. Think of that overzealous HOA board or workplace bully. Karen's fines and fake cops show how fear silences, but Blake's calm resolve proves you don't need to shout to fight back. Gather facts, stand firm, and truth cuts through. For millennials juggling rent or Gen Xers at PTA meetings, it's a call to question unfair rules, whether it's a $200 fee for a fence or a shady eviction notice. Community matters. Neighbors, 15 feet apart, became Blake's army, reminding us to lean on each other from Texas barbecues to Ohio porches. Protect the vulnerable, widows, vets, single moms, because justice starts with compassion. Blake's patriotism, defending freedom 3 miles from home, shows that courage isn't just for war, it's saying enough to tyranny in yoga pants. In life, don't just endure, document, unite, and act. Freedom's not a gift, it's a line you hold, one porch at a time.